Well, joining me now to discuss the conflict in Israel and Gaza is a TV host and satirist, Bاسم Youssef. Bاسم, it's great to have you back on the programme. I wish it was under different circumstances. First of all, what is your reaction to what happened on October the 7th?
Oh, it was terrible, of course. I mean, we kind of get our news kind of also secondhand because, you know, my wife's family, they live in Gaza. They have cousins and uncles there, and their house also was bombed. We haven't been able to communicate with them for the past 3 days. Communication are lost. So we don't know actually what is the, how are they doing, but, you know, we're used to that. I mean, it's just like, it's very repetitive. We're used to that. We're used to them being bombed every time and moving from one place to the other. You know, it's just like those Palestinians, they're very dramatic. Israel killing us. But they never die. I mean, they always come back. You know, they're very difficult to kill, very difficult people to kill. I know because I'm married to one. I tried many times, couldn't kill her.
I mean, there's a dark humour there, and I understand why. Because
no, it's not dark humour. I try to get to her every time, but she uses our kids as human shields. I can never take her out.
Again, I understand the humour, but to be serious, Bاسم, about this, tonight there is...
I will be serious. Now, I will be serious. I was watching your interview with Ben Shapiro, and I'll tell you one thing.
Yeah.
I think that Ben Shapiro is one of the smartest people who ever walked this earth. He's very, very smart. I follow him, and I believe everything he said. And when he came on your show, his solution was, and I quote, his solution was that the solution for this is for Israel to annex Gaza and to kill as many son of bitches as possible to make sure that this will never happen again. And anyone who called for a ceasefire will be a terrorist sympathizer. So God forbid, I don't want to be labeled as a terrorist sympathizer. So I agree with Ben Shapiro. I think we should kill as many son of bitches as possible.
Well, let me,
so
okay,
far,
but Bاسم, let me...
so far, 3,500 people were killed, including 5,000 son of bitches in the bombing of the Baptist hospital as we speak right now. 1/3 of those 3,500 were children. So my question to Ben Shapiro is, how many more son of bitches do we need to kill so Ben Shapiro is happy?
Okay,
because it changes
Bاسm,
from 1 year.
It
changes from one. I'm sorry that. Listen, I'm really at a disadvantage here. I'm looking at a camera. I don't see you. I can hear you on my ears.
The reason I'm interrupting is
I
think you're conflating different interviews with Ben Shapiro. He didn't use the phrase "sons of bitches" with me. Let me play to you what he actually said on my show.
He did. Go back to your interview.
No, he didn't. That was another interview. But let me play what he said to me here.
Well, frankly, I don't believe in proportionate response to terrorism. I believe that the way that you stop terrorism is with wildly disproportionate response. That doesn't mean in terms of targeting civilians. It means in terms of killing as many terrorists as humanly possible and allowing them to dictate the terms of engagement by hiding behind civilians in areas that they are supposedly responsible for means that the only option for Israel is to surrender to Hamas's hatred of its own citizens, its willingness to use its own children as human shields. No country worth its salt could ever do that.
Now, that is substantively different to what you said he said, right? He's talking there
but
specifically about Hamas terrorists.
I agree with him. The thing is, the question is, what is a proportionate response? Because it has been different from one tier to another. So if you look to this graph, for example, this is the death of Israeli and Palestinians, and it's changing from 1 year to year. It's like fluctuating like crypto. So my question is today, what is the going rate today for human lives? I mean, 2014 was a great year for Ben Shapiro. 88 Israelis were died, and there was 2,329 Palestinians killed on the other side. That is one Israeli for 27 Palestinians. That is a very good exchange rate. What I'm saying is, what is the exchange rate for today? You guys will be happy. That's my question.
Well, it's not me. It's not me, guys. I'm not on either side.
No, not you. Like when I say you guys, I say like the people on the other side of that. I know that you don't think like that, Piers. You're one of the good guys. But let me tell you something. I mean, the reason that I'm using this is that, I mean, I can't remember what happened in 2014, and there was no music festival, but there must be something. I mean, they must do something. It is their fault. It has to be something. I mean, in 2018, 300 Palestinians died. Who's counting, you know? So the thing is, what my question is, let's find what is the exchange rate for human life today so we expect the future death of Palestinians and we'll be happy to it.
My response to that would be this, Bاسm. I've thought carefully about this because I think it's very tricky for people like me to immerse ourselves into a conflict where we're not directly involved. And I thought carefully about what I feel about this. I feel that the scale of what Hamas did on October the 7th supersedes anything else I've seen in this conflict, really ever. The savagery, the butchery, the slaughter of 1,300 people, the shooting of babies, the 100%. Kidnapping of grandmothers and so on. So if we can agree on that, which I think is inarguable, then the question then becomes, again, about proportion. I don't disagree that there's been a lot of bad stuff on both sides going back historically for decades. But if we agree that this was on a different level altogether, quite deliberately by Hamas, designed to provoke. No, here's my question. Let me ask you a question. And the question, because you raised it earlier about proportion. I honestly don't know what the proportionate response is. I honestly don't. I don't. I've been watching the airstrikes this week thinking...
So what's your question?
Well, I would ask you, if you were Israel, what would you...
If I was Israel.
If you were Israel and that had happened to you, what would you think would be the appropriate way for the country to respond?
I would do exactly like Israel did, kill as many people as possible since the world is letting me do it. I mean, I can do it because I can, you know. But the thing is, you know what, I agree with you. And you know what, I'm going to be even ahead of you because I see the question coming. Do you condemn Hamas for the atrocity? Yes, I condemn Hamas. I condemn Hamas. Hamas is the source of all evil. They're a reason for everything. And you know what, let's for a minute imagine a world without Hamas.
Right.
What will this world look like? Let's give this word a name, and let's name this word the West Bank. Hamas has absolutely no control in the West Bank, and since the beginning of this year, only through August, 37 Palestinian kids were killed. No music festival, no paragliding, no Hamas. Since the occupation of the West Bank, 7,000 Palestinians were killed. No music festival, no paragliding, no Hamas. I can go on and on and on and on.
No, but you don't need to, because in a way you're preaching to the choir. I've followed this crisis.
Oh no, you're not preaching. So the thing is, like,
in the sense that I know that what you're saying has validity. Of course,
Piers. By the way, Piers. I am at a disadvantage here. I can hear you. I cannot see you. I am in a claustrophobic room, and so please cut me some slack and don't interrupt me and interrupt my points.
Sure.
So, because this has to be fair.
Understand.
Because if you want to only hear your opinion, I can just condemn Hamas and go home. I can do that. So, do you want to do that, or do you have a much more nuanced conversation?
No, I absolutely want to have a nuanced conversation. I wasn't aware I was interrupting you. I thought I was letting you speak.
Amazing. So I would say I really applaud Israel for doing one thing that no military force in the world does. Because I heard Ben Shapiro and I heard Ron DeSantis, and they said Israel is the only military force in the world that warns civilians before bombing them. I mean, how fucking cute. That is so nice of them. Because with this logic, if Russian troops started warning Ukrainians before bombing their houses, we're cool with Putin, right? I mean, okay, Habibi, you have warned them, go invade, it's fine, you have done your job. I mean, the thing is, and I understand, and I also heard Ben Shapiro talking about Human Shield. So you remember my wife's family, they live in Gaza. So I asked them, I told them, when Israel give you the nice warning, the cute warning, does Hamas force you to stay in your home so you can be bombed and use as Human Shield? You know what, Hassan here, my wife's cousin, he's a loser, you know. He told me, you know, when I asked him, does that happen? He told me, no. The lying son of a bitch lied to me. I told him, you don't understand. Ben Shapiro and Ron DeSantis keep saying that Israel warns you and Hamas asks you to stay put. So I told you, he's a loser. He never kept a job. He even failed in all of the interviews to become like a Human Shield. I would believe Ben Shapiro.
Let me ask you this, Bassam.
So let's go with that. No. Let me ask you
At some point, I must be able to ask you questions. It's not a monologue for you, Bassam.
If we agree that for the 14,000 casualties, I mean, who's counting, are Human Shield, does that mean that every single one of those civilians was standing, obscuring a military target behind them? Because that's a lot of weapons. I mean, Hamas is packing.
No, of course it doesn't. And look,
so there's some collateral damage. Lots of collateral damage.
Yes.
It's fine, yeah. You kill some to save some and then kill some more. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. Again, it comes back to proportionate response. When the world decided it had to get rid of ISIS because of the appalling butchery they were carrying out, it did so by also killing very sadly, a lot of civilians along the way by doing airstrikes against places which
but killing civilians are inevitable. You said that in the beginning.
My point is,
it's inevitable.
Yeah, but once Israel has decided that they want to get rid of Hamas, and Hamas is embedded with civilian population, I'm very concerned about what's going to happen next. I've written a column tonight saying, I remember the Iraq War, which I opposed, right? I remember all this. So my question to you is, what would you think would be an appropriate response by Israel to what happened?
Well, these are years of disproportionate responses of Israel.
Right.
Did it solve the solution? Did it solve the problem? Did it work before, so it will work? What will be the surprise this time? What will be the twist that will make this work this time? What will be different this time? Seriously, I mean, like, this is only the last 15 years. I mean, because it's too many papers. I just got this. But how will this be different? And the thing is, I am so glad in the introduction that you mentioned the Iraq War. I applaud you, Piers, for saying that, because you were honest about it. You said that spreading lies, like WMDs, make people look at those people as less of humans, and they would accept the death of 1 million Iraqi, whether by sanctions or by invasion, right? You are a good man. This is amazing. And you know what is similar? Is when you spread the lies of 40 decapitated babies, although it was refuted. So what happens when people hear that, killing babies is horrible. But when you say decapitated 40 babies, you are planting a certain image with a certain trigger in people's mind.
Who has said that? Who has said 40?
Who has said that? You have said 40 decapitated.
Who has said that?
You have repeated.
No, I haven't.
What?
I've never said that.
You haven't said on your show 40 decapitated babies?
Never.
Ben Shapiro didn't say it?
No.
Ron DeSantis didn't say
Nobody has said
it? Okay,
nobody
said it?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, maybe I am wrong. Decapitated. Here's
you're wrong. I've never said that.
What happened, no, you're wrong. But the thing is, the same thing is happening in Iraq. Ben Shapiro once tweeted, not even about Gaza, about the West Bank, when Israel continued to build the illegal settlement. He said, 2017, Israel likes to build things, and Arabs, not Palestine, not Hamas, Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage.
Yeah, I thought that was very
the Israeli defense minister, he said, those are human animals. And the thing is, Ben Shapiro should know better, because, long before the Holocaust, before Jewish people were thrown in the gas chambers, the Nazi propaganda called them rats. Now, as a human being, I will never accept that another human being being thrown into a gas chamber. But a rat, kill 10, kill 1,000, 3,500. They are son of a bitch. They are human animals who live in open sewage and decapitate babies. And because of that propaganda, Mr. Morgan, that guy in Illinois, the 71 years old guy, he killed, stabbing the 6-year-old Palestinian kid in Illinois 26 times. And he used to play with him. They used to be friends. But he went in, marching into their apartment, stabbing his mother and killing him, shouting, all Muslims could die.
Yeah.
It took you 80 years to change one word from Jewish to Muslim. And then you transferred your guilt to us and took away our land.
Bassem, let me ask you a question.
That deal sucks, man.
Let me ask you a question. How do we get from where we are now to peace?
Well, first of all, you need to change the perception. Nikki Haley, the American presidential candidate, said, we are in Israel in this because it's a fight between good and evil. Now, if you already decided someone is good, he can do no evil. And if you decided someone is evil, it's good to kill them. Killing them is good. You see, and the thing is, it is not like something new. I mean, I look at history and I see, I'm sorry to say this, but Westerners has always dealt like this with indigenous people. You first treated them like savages, Native American, First Nation, Aboriginal. They're savages. Kill all the savages. And then when they're almost extinct, you start feeling sorry for them, like animals. So maybe the solution is that we kill as many Palestinians as possible, so the few of them that remains do not bother you. And maybe Netanyahu, when he lives for another 100 years, he'll become a tree hugger.
Let me just challenge you on this.
And he will campaign for preserving the free Palestinian.
You keep talking about Westerners like me. Okay, so let me return the favor, okay? Hamas is dedicated to the complete eradication of Jewish people.
I am not the spokesman for Hamas.
I'm not saying you are.
Why do you keep...
I'm not saying you
I'm
are.
not their spokesman.
You're talking to me.
I fucking hate them.
Bassem,
fuck Hamas. Hamas.
No,
are you happy?
You're missing my point. You're talking in a generalized way about people in the West who always talk about Arabs as savages. I don't.
No. I'm talking about America. About
I actually
Western
led the
media.
campaign.
I
led the media campaign in this country against the Iraq War. Okay, so I don't see. I don't see people in the Middle East as savages.
You are one of the good ones.
But what I would say is,
I'm not talking about you. You're great.
No, it's not about me being
amazing.
great.
We love you.
It's about the way Hamas behaved on October the 7th was like savages. Like a pack of savages. It was the worst atrocity against Jewish people since the Holocaust. There has to be,
of course,
there has to be a response.
They should be eradicated.
My question for you is, notwithstanding the history,
Bassem,
what is the proportionate response?
But I don't know. But there's no Hamas in the West Bank, and they're still dying there. So what's your excuse?
I don't have any excuse.
Okay, what's your explanation? Sorry, my earpiece went down.
Listen, I don't make any pretense that this hasn't been a massive problem between Palestine and Israel going back to the mid-40s. We all know this, right?
Piers, listen. I'm not saying that you're making excuses, but if you are adopting a certain point of view, you have to at least defend it. I'm telling you, there is no Hamas in the West Bank. What is the excuse? Not your excuse. What is the excuse to kill those people?
Well, listen, this question of proportionality is one that...
No, answer my question! I've been answering your question, you answer mine.
It's actually not my job to answer your questions. It's not.
Okay, not your job.
Not.
I agree with you.
I'm more interested in you, who has family in Gaza, who's an Egyptian in the Middle East, right? I'm more interested in what you have to say.
Okay, I'm telling you. I think Hamas is the problem, okay?
Right.
Now, let's say Hamas is removed. Let's Hamas. I'm agreeing with everything. You want me to condemn Hamas? I will condemn Hamas, Hummus, Hassan, everybody. Guys, so wait. I can't hear you. The earpiece. Damn. Okay. Oops. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I do need help.
I think.
Okay.
Just go back. Is he there?
You go back. You go.
Can you hear me?
Okay, go. Thank you, guys.
Can you hear Bassem?
Yeah. Now I can hear you.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Can you hear? Okay.
Yeah.
So Isaac, let's say, for example, Hamas ceased to exist. Okay. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Hamas ceased to exist today. Now, right now, in Palestine, in West Bank and Gaza, 20% of Palestinians go through Israeli prison system, whether imprisonment, whether interrogation, whether torture, and the rest of them, they live a life of daily loss of land, of homes, of life, and they are suffocated by this. So let me ask you something. If you are a Palestinian living in these conditions for decades, would you sympathize with your oppressor, or sympathize with the people who claim they resist them even if they are terrorists?
I have made no secret that I think the conditions Palestinians have had to exist under are completely unacceptable. Yeah. I've said that for years. So the question then becomes, how do you forge peace between two warring parts of that region who for decades have approached peace, in my view, with mutual sledgehammers, with no actual desire to have peace? And I think it comes down in the end to great leadership. And I don't think there's great leadership. I don't think, well, hang on, let me make my point. I don't think there's great leadership on either side. Where is the Nelson Mandela figure here to come through all this hatred on both sides?
Nelson Mandela?
Yeah, where is that
Nelson
figure?
Nelson Mandela actually have criticized Israel for being a horrible state. All of the South African activists have actually called Israel.
My point is about how he responded to a country that was so divided. Is a template for how you get to peace, isn't it?
I haven't met Nelson Mandela, so I wouldn't know. But like there is a point. There's a very important point here. You know, I want to understand what is the logic of Israel carpet bombing Gaza. I mean, if there's a logic, if this will make Israel safe, I want to hear the logic. So if they continue bombing, what are they hoping to achieve?
Well, I think we know what their stated aim is. Their stated aim is to eradicate and wipe out Hamas. They believe Hamas are living predominantly in northern Gaza. They also are aware they're living amongst civilians. So it's an incredibly difficult thing. As I said in my monologue, it is very, very difficult to see how they do this without massive collateral damage.
So if I can understand this correctly, basically Israel is doing this to pressure the Palestinian community in Gaza to turn against Hamas. Is that right?
I'm sure that's part of it, yes.
That's part of it. So this is exactly what terrorist organizations do, because terrorist organizations will have no chance beating a whole nation in battle. So they terrorize and they kill the civilians in order to spread fear and terror so they can turn against their government to change their policy or to resign. You have just compared Israel with ISIS.
No, I haven't. I don't see any comparison between
It's going to be the headlines tomorrow. Piers Morgan, Israel is ISIS.
Only amongst people who weren't listening. The comparison, which is more apposite, is ISIS and Hamas. They are both nihilistic terror groups intent on killing as many Jewish people and others as they can possibly kill. And you can't get peace with people like that.
Absolutely. You know what? I'm going to do something that nobody done on your television. You know what I'm going to do on your episode? I'm going to pretend that I'm an Israeli citizen. I'm going to put myself in the place of an Israeli settler in the kibbutz. And I want to speak to my Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, I have voted for you because you have promised us peace and prosperity and security. On the 7th of October, those son of bitches Hamas, they went into the fence that is regularly heavily guarded. Usually if there's like a dove that comes close to it, it will be shot. Those people went in and they went for 6 hours before IDF forces was deployed, killing our friends, our families, kidnapping our grandmothers and babies, and went in. I want to ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, after you have fractured the Israeli community and you have fucked our courts, our Supreme Courts, what are you doing with the money being given to you, to the United States? Also, you are carpet bombing Gaza with absolutely no regard to our hostages, our people. I heard a rumor in the kibbutz that you're doing that you let that happen as an excuse to carpet bomb Gaza, so you push them into Sinai. And I didn't believe it. I said, not my prime minister. He can never do that. And then I watched an interview for Danny Ayalon. He was your chief advisor. He was also the Israeli ambassador to the United States. And you know what he said, Mr. Prime Minister? He said that the solution for those Palestinians is to go into a vast land of Sinai and live into tent cities temporarily, temporarily, wink wink, until we build Gaza again, and then we invite you back. يعني عبط احنا بقى. يعني فاهمني؟ We've seen this movie before. So يعني, and when I saw this, I couldn't explain to my fellows in the kibbutz, how come our Israeli government is trading human lives for another piece of land? So as an Israeli citizen, I need to hold my Israeli government accountable. And as an American citizen, I want to know all of these money that we are giving to Israel. We're giving them $4 billion every year. Joe Biden said it's the best investment America ever done. Well, if I am in the place of Joe Biden, I would say, sorry, don't speak. I would say, if I was Joe Biden, I would go down and whisper in the ears of Netanyahu and tell them, I hate bad investments. They haunt me, like Littlefinger in Game of Thrones. But the thing is, this is the problem. Israel always victimizes itself, and I have never seen a victim putting their oppressor under siege and bombing them 24/7. Israel wants you to believe that they are the victim. Dealing with Israel is so difficult. It's like being in a relationship with a narcissistic psychopath. He fucks you up, and then he makes you think it's your fault.
All right,
you
Basim,
look at Israel as Superman, but they're really Homelander. Wallahi, they are shooting
Basim,
fish in a barrel, and they are annoyed with the splashes.
Basim, I want to say two things. One, if you could just slightly manage your language. We are uncensored, but if you keep swearing,
I'm very sorry.
We have to apologise to viewers who may be offended by that.
I apologize.
But I understand passions run high, so let's not get too bogged down about the odd swear word.
I apologize to the viewers. I apologize to the viewers for my language.
My second question is this:
after the sight of dead civilians.
After the break, we have the managing director of the Daily Wire, which is Ben Shapiro's company. We were going to interview him on his own, but he's happy to come on and talk with you directly if you are prepared to stay.
Well, of course, I can stay, but again, I am... I am in a disadvantage, and I would like to have my space to respond.
Okay, we'll come back after the break.
Because here's the thing. There's
Bassem,
two things
we've
I want
got to go to a break.
All right.
When we come back from the break, we'll be you and Jeremy Boring from the Daily Wire.
I have news.
We're taking a short break, Bassem. I'll be back. Welcome back to Uncensored. For more on the situation in Israel, I'm joined now by the CEO and co-founder of the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro's partner, Jeremy Boring. Jeremy, thank you very much indeed for joining me. I'm sorry we demoted you earlier to mere MD. You are the CEO and co-founder. You know Ben Shapiro better than anyone, really. I did a big interview with Ben, obviously, the other night, which went around the world and has sparked a big reaction, including from our guest, Bassem Youssef, who's still with us. First of all, you've been listening to Bassem and what he's been saying. What's your response?
Well, first of all, I make it a point not to speak for Ben Shapiro. He's got a 20 IQ points on me and speaks for a living professionally, so he's much better prepared to defend himself. But as his business partner, as his best friend, I do feel like I have to respond to the things that Bassem was just saying. First of all, the question of how many sons of bitches have to be killed in order to end this conflict, I suppose that the answer is as many of them as it takes. That doesn't mean that I or Ben or any decent person in their right mind is happy with the killing of civilians. I posted at the very beginning of this conflict that a woman or a child blown apart in Gaza is just as tragic as a Jewish baby killed in one of the settlements. That doesn't mean that Israel's actions and the actions of Hamas are morally equivalent. You know, the tragedy is the tragedy, but the moral equivalency is nonsense. If you entered Israel with the express purpose of targeting and murdering civilians with your own hands in cold blood, that is not comparable to Israel bombing targets in the Gaza Strip and killing civilians as a terrible, tragic consequence. War is terrible. War is an awful thing. That's why decent people don't lightly engage in war, and why Hamas should not have incited this war. You know, we can talk about the history of the Israeli conflict. I'm not a professional political commentator. I'm a CEO. I'm a screenwriter, and I'm certainly not Ben Shapiro. I'm not here to discuss the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but we all saw what happened on October 7th. And the idea that Israel was not going to react severely to that, or that Israel should not react severely to that, is ludicrous. And the
Jeremy,
idea that Ben Shapiro should be a moderating voice, that Ben Shapiro should be, saying, no, Israel should not respond in this situation, that's nonsense.
Let me ask you though, Jeremy, the question which I think is the big question. What is a proportionate response to that outrage on October the 7th, which is the worst attack on Jewish people since the Holocaust? What is proportionate? If it's true, as reports are suggesting tonight, that there may have been a hospital hit by an Israeli strike and up to 500 people or more have died, that would seem to me, if that is verified, and it's not verified yet, you know, we don't know exactly what has happened other than there's been a hit on this hospital. But if that is verified to have been an Israeli strike, that will strike many people as disproportionate.
Certainly. Well, first of all, I don't know what a proportionate response is or why we would want it. I suppose a proportionate response would be for 3,000 Israelis to go through the fence, gun down innocent Palestinian women and children, burn their bodies, burn them alive, take hostages, rape their women. No one wants a proportionate response. No moral person could possibly call for a proportionate response. The purpose of war is to defeat your enemy. The West has, in my lifetime, forgotten the purpose of war because the true cost of war is so terrible. The last time the West engaged in war and won it was World War II, and they did it through incredible brutality. They did it by bringing their enemies to heel. That's not a thing to rah-rah about. That's not a thing to look forward to. As I said, all decent people should avoid war. But I think the sort of lie of the post-World War II, the post-war consensus lie, is that somehow war in which you kill a bunch of people and don't secure victory is morally superior to war where you do secure victory. I would say that the only way to morally justify a war is to win it. Otherwise, the very argument that brought you into the war, this enemy must be defeated, ends up being proven a lie. I mean, Afghanistan, I think America had every right to go into Afghanistan. The Taliban was harboring Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda flew planes into buildings in the United States, killed thousands of our citizens, brought the nation into untold agony, pain, and horror. America had every right morally to go in and destroy the Taliban and destroy Al-Qaeda.
Yeah, but I would argue,
the Taliban now rules in Afghanistan. The war was not won.
But that's my point, actually. I've done a column about this tonight for The Sun here in the UK, which is I was editor of a newspaper when the Iraq war happened. I opposed it very aggressively as the editor of the paper. And sadly, we were borne out by events. It was a complete disaster, the Iraq War, in my view. It was illegally contested, I think. And the consequences were appalling in terms of loss of life, 1 million people, in terms of ISIS being allowed to breed and create their merry hell around the world, in terms of complete dismantlement of Iraq itself as a functioning country. And I think Afghanistan, again, 20 years of, attacking an enemy, which is now running the country again, seemed to me, again, to be kind of pointless. And I do wonder whether Israel, in its blind fury, which I completely understand, has thought through the consequences of actually launching a full air, ground and sea offensive into Gaza as to actually what happens at the end of that.
Well, I suppose Israel wasn't really given the opportunity to fully contemplate what the consequences of that action might be, because Israel didn't instigate this war. This war was instigated by a horrible terrorist attack on Israel, and a state is put in a position where it has to respond. Now, one might argue that the very fact that Israel has yet to actually launch their ground invasion means that they are actually making a calculation about what the cost will be, what victory looks like. Any rational person, any decent person can engage in a conversation about what is the appropriate response for Israel. Of course they can. But this sort of moral equivalency thing, I don't think is a sign of decency to engage in a conversation about moral equivalency.
Let me bring Baasim back in. You've been listening to this, Baasim. What's your response to what Jeremy's been saying?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the gentleman's name.
It's Jeremy Boring. He's the chief executive of the Daily Wire and co-founder with Ben Shapiro of the Daily Wire.
Hi, Jeremy. Please say hello to Ben Shapiro, and please tell him that I do think he is the smartest person to ever walk the earth. Thank you so much. So, as response to Jeremy, I agree with everything you said. I mean, what is disproportionate? I mean, he just used the examples from Second World War and America, showing that civilian casualty is, I heard his voice. He was very sad, and as he was telling us, it is so inevitable to kill so many civilians because it's something that we cannot avoid. I hear the sadness in his voice, and I know that it's a very difficult decision to kill all of these civilians because that's for a higher cause, and I understand. But my question, I have two questions. The question is, how can you justify the killing in the West Bank where Hamas does not exist? And if the disproportionate response during over all of these years have actually worked, what will be new this time that did not happen before? I just want to. That was my question.
Okay,
that was my question. I'm gonna. Okay. So now, if I ask the question, can I say something on my side?
Well, Baasim, with respect,
a little bit personal.
Baasim, with respect, I gave you half the show to have your side. Jeremy's had a lot less time. I'm going to have to.
You
want
me to leave?
Baasim, I'm going to have to let you go because we've been on air with you for 40 minutes.
Okay. Bye.
But listen,
bye.
I'd like to talk to you again, and thank you for joining the program. I appreciate it.
Oh, by the way, my wife's family is all right, and they sent us a house. It's bombed. It's beautiful. It's going to be a good like Halloween theme. So
I'm very sorry for what your family are going through in Gaza, and I mean that very sincerely.
By the way, I don't know. I don't know I don't know him. By the way, I haven't actually met them. They didn't even come to my wedding. They couldn't because they are stuck in Gaza, and she never saw them because Gaza is not a destination.
Baasim, as I say,
we hear their voices, and it's they die. It's fine. It's fine.
Baasim, I wish your family all the very best. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
I don't. Thank you.